The Property Owners Association of Bella Vista, in cooperation with Bella Vista Community Television, presents the monthly POA board meeting held at the Bella Vista Country Club.
Yes.
We will call the March 17th, 2016 regular Board of Directors meeting to order. If you'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's invocation is from Pastor Mark Kelly from the Bella Vista Assembly of God Church.
Lord, I thank you tonight that these folks are willing to gather and steward our community's resources. God, I ask you to bless them, give them supernatural wisdom and insight into these different things to be decided, and we will thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Everybody may be seated. Does anyone on the board have any additions or deletions to offer for the agenda tonight? Being none, we will begin. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our February 18, 2016 regular meeting.
Second.
That has been moved and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Dwayne Mitchell will give us our financial report.
This is the income statement year-to-date through February, the end of the month. And this is the POA first, and these are in thousands of dollars. This is on page 14 of the attachments that you have. Excuse me. Looking at the top line of assessments, we've been seeing this not quite to budget. And again, it's still 163. We're hard working on collections. We actually have a new collections department, and legal is going to get back in the scheme with the bigger lots. But right now we're 163,000 down from budget. Golf, yeah, that helps. Golf is 425,000 better in fees, and you can see what they are. The favorable fees on this side, 344 greens fees, member greens fees 17, driving range 2, annual seat lease 79 for the 442. The negative, or a negative 14 on guest, and negative 4 on private cart. But overall, 425. But it's important to remember that we did start selling early. We started selling in December, and the annual fees received were earlier than budgeted, and our forecast for our March is projected to more even out in the opposite way. The majority of golf annual fees historically have been paid by the end of month March, except the monthly, as you all well know. That's correct, yes. Yeah, last year was kind of weird because we kind of prorated that because of the change in the fees. The RV income is less than budget by 10. The RV park is better by 13, but the storage is down by 23. Looking at the facility use fees, photo ID is $15,000. It's higher than budget. And the balance is other facility use fees across the POA, the recreational facilities. So that's 36 better. Those are good numbers. Boat registrations, it's almost even. It's 2,000 down from budget. And dock fees is better by 10, so it's overall better by 8. Lot sales down by 8. Now with the legal department kind of getting hooked back up, that'll probably maybe pick up. I know we are actually selling some lots now. Transfer fees still down by 33. Other income is better by, it's worse by 20. Cell tower commissions are actually higher than budget by 24, but the advertising is what's killing us here. It's down by 38, and the balance is miscellaneous. Looking at the total income on the POA, 232,000 better than budget, and you can see for the reasons. The cost of sales is about 6,000 higher than budget, mainly because of golf. Gross profit is better than budget by $227,000. That's the revenue items. Looking at the expense items, the same statement, the POA. Salary and wages is better by $163,000. A negative in expenses means that's a positive. That's better than budget. And that's due to a lot of open positions. We have golf maintenance that was filled, or that was budgeted but not filled yet, $30,000 there. Golf operations, some of the flood, and also some part-time open positions, about $35,000 there. Delay of the adjustment, $40,000, and F&A open position, legal, now that legal's here. In IT, we actually hired legal IT in March, so that will go away too. But that's $20,000, but there'll still be some variance because we didn't hire until later.
Can you go back one slide?
Sure.
On the assessments,
Yes.
are we talking, variance to budget, are we talking about delinquencies here?
Delinquencies, that's correct. More delinquencies, and with the bigger lots, that adds up fast, and we don't recognize the revenue once it gets delinquent over 1 year. And so there's less revenue being recognized is what that really amounts to.
And is some portion of that due to the fact that we have been understaffed in our legal department?
I think some of that can be that. Some of it just the fact that we've got a lot of people that are just not paying, and we're sending out monthly statements now. We hope that will help, but we've also got a collections department now that's actually making calls daily, making emails, and other reaching out to the members to get more money.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we've gone through the wages. Benefits are positive by 72. Again, health insurance and also payroll taxes. We've budgeted for those positions to be filled, and without them being filled, there's no payroll taxes being charged. So that's $72,000 there. Down here. Professional services is higher than budget by 16, and that was higher last month due to outside legal and also some HR professional consultants. Postage is a timing issue, is about $17,000 higher than budget. Total expenses, therefore, are better than budget by $262. The majority you can see up there at the top, salaries and wages and benefits and some of the others, but that's a positive number right now, $262. Income, cost of operations is positive because of all what you've seen before, $496,000 better than budget. Looking at the simple cash flow, capital projects are slightly higher than budget by 10, mainly due to our Metfield renovation project. We had some extra costs that weren't quite in the budget, and that's going to be covered by reserves coming over there, $7,000 there. The reserves for other projects, the $19,000, that's the floods. We actually had some flood money that was from the December floods, and we've spent $19,000 of that money. Simple cash flow, therefore, on the POA, $505,000 positive. Looking at the water utility, this is the same statement through February, into the month of February, page 15 of your attachment. Water is down slightly, $20,000, and you can see water sales are actually $27,000, but we've got a positive in new connections. We've got more new connections than we're budgeted. So overall, we're down 20. Other income is higher than the budget by 20 also, so that kind of negates it. Water capital buy-in fees and miscellaneous. These are some late building fees that go into this category. Total income is just almost even. It's $1,000 less than budget. Cost of sales is year-to-date, it's getting better. It's 38.6. Budget is 31.2. We had some timing issues in this, but a lot of it is leaks. Mike said we had some major leaks that will affect this, and so it'll always be trailing a little than what we've had it in budget, I think, because of that, unless we just make up some good months, according to what you've told me. Gross profit is less than budget by 68, mainly because of cost. Expense section of this is the water utility again. Expenses, the salaries and wages again are better than budget by 24, mainly due to vacancies. Employee benefits, the same thing. Health insurance, payroll taxes, better than budget by 10. Maintenance repairs, we got some savings here, about $14,000 year to date. Supply savings, about $24,000. And membership, training, and travel, as we said, we hired a new employee, and the relocation of that engineer is about $7,000. Total expenses on the water then are better than budget by $72,000. Income and cost of operation on the water, it's better than budget by 10. And simple cash flow is better than budget by 4. Any questions?
Wayne, I don't know if it fits here, but I was just wondering, we had an estimate from Keith Imes on the expenses or the expenditures that were going to have to be made in order to recover from the flood.
Mhm.
And I just heard you say 19,000.
We've used 19 from golf. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and where has the rest of that money come from? Or is there any more?
There is, that's all that's been spent because they put it in a special line item, and so we're tracking that, and that comes out of reserves because the board's approved a certain amount of reserves for the flood, both water and for the overall POA.
Okay, do we know what that is right now?
It is in your report. It's not on this report, but it's in the report you have under the cash reserves. It'll show December flood. I think it says Christmas flood, what we have left.
Okay,
Well, I believe we had 400,000 put aside, but I don't have my numbers.
right, I thought that's what it was.
I can look and see though real quick if you need me to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Well, that concludes my report. Any questions?
Thank you, Dwayne. Response to previous open forum comments, the responses were actually given at the time since the questions had to do with an item that had already changed regarding the number of household member card users there could be. Open forum, if you'd like to address the board, I would ask you to step to the microphone, state your name and home address, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you. Being none, Joint Advisory Committee reports.
For Lakes, Department John Doyle is here to give the Lakes.
Good evening. I apologize if I don't do what is normally done. This is my first attending to the meeting. I'm John Doyle. I represent the Lakes JAC, and we had our third meeting of the year yesterday afternoon. All of our meetings are developed through management discussions. Vern Olafson and Mike, as well as the biologist, always each month come in and develop and give us a report on what they've done during the month as far as the lakes or parks. As far as the committee itself, well, let me start with Vern. Vern had given us a quick report as far as still trying to remove some of the logs, the deadheads in the lake that can be dangerous for boaters. Vern still and his team still work to try to get those removed, as well as the gravel. There's some gravel concerns in Stony Kirk as well as London Park, Stony Kirk on Loch Lomond, London Park on Windsor. John Urquhart came to the meeting. He was representing Rick Eccles, the biologist. He gave us an update saying that things are progressing well as far as the two ponds, brooding ponds that they're using on the golf course on 71. I think they feel they're ready for the fish. Now all they have to do is go out and trap and capture the crappie, and they're still working for the walleye permits to see if they can bring the walleye in as well. The intent is to raise those fish to a little bit larger size, I think into June, and hopefully there won't be as much predation. As you all know, we have lots of bass in these lakes, and they like eating little fish. So the intent is, or hope is that getting them a little bit larger, they'll have a better survival rate. He also mentioned that he had been out doing a little trapping or surveying on the lake. In Lake Avalon, they had caught a 7-pound sauger, which is a very large sauger. So the health of the lake seems to be very good, just not a lot of them in there. So hopefully this walleye population that they're looking to develop into the lake will give fishermen another opportunity to catch a different species. Finally, we as a JAC, we've developed our water clarity teams. We have teams and volunteers that go out once every week during the summertime and test the water clarity, report that information back to the biologist, who then determines what type of fertilization needs to be done to help with some of the algae growth that we have in the summer so everybody can enjoy swimming in the lakes and doing what they like to do. Final thing that we're working on as a JAC group, it was brought to us by the planning committee, is possible improvement of the fishing dock in Loch Lomond. As you all might know, we have a dock out there, and we have developed a proposal, a feasibility proposal, which we'll take to the Planning Committee next, I think it's the 14th, right, John? I believe it's the 14th of April, and present to that committee as possible improvements that people might see and use the facility a little bit more than it's used today. Today, it sits very close to the bank, so from a fishing perspective, it doesn't get much use. So some of the proposals that we made are to help with that and embellish that area to make it a better area for people to fish. I think that was about it.
Thank you, John. The 14th, that actually, the fishing dock report will come to the board work session. And representing the Recreation Committee is Deb Sorensen.
Hello. I'm Debbie Sorensen, and I'm here to represent the Recreation Committee. We met on Monday, and we have actually 3 points. Number one, we were very excited about the trail completion that's coming to Branchwood. It looks great, and we're really excited about it. We have been asked by you as an organization to come back and show you some priorities that we feel that would be important to go into phase 2. And number one will be parking, to expand the parking, because the parking lot is pretty well filled when Branchwood is very busy, let's say in the morning and the afternoon. So we would like to see parking expanded. Number two, we'd love to have a pavilion, and that would be something that we've talked about into phase 2. And with the pavilion, we would also need electricity, which would be number 3. And lastly, maybe benches along the trail area. So those would be the 4 priorities that we felt would be appropriate for phase 2 of the Branchwood repurposing. The second thing is the pickleball courts. The group that represents the pickleball courts was at our meeting, and they are ecstatic. And that they're so excited that the pickleball courts are going to actually be worked on in April, and they want to make sure it's April of 2016. So I have assured Roy and the other group that it will be 2016, and they're very, very excited about that. And thirdly, Metfield, we talked a little bit about the food, which some of the people said wasn't the best, but it was never promised to be great. It wasn't going to be gourmet food. I was out there today, and I have to compliment everybody. It looks great. And if you haven't been out there, there were 6 or 7 people in the workout area. There were 4 or 5 people having, some food. And the golf process was going on as planned. So I was very, very happy with Metfield. And that's it. That's the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Golf?
Jake Grassmick is unable to attend tonight. He's the chair, so he asked me to report. It was a very busy month because they had the Golf Expo as well as the group leader meeting. Golf rounds were 34% above budget for February, which accounted for the second highest February in the last 10 years. Kind of goes to show if the weather's good, the golfers will play. To help the unused tee times, 2 new policies were introduced, the short show and the no show. The idea is to cancel tee times you do not plan to use so that they can be released to golfers who do plan to use them. So it's ahead of time, preferably 48 hours or 24 at the very least. Key Themes thanked all the volunteers for their help with the flood cleanup and said there may need to be more cleanup days as we get into the summer and the grass gets a little longer. Right now, it's kind of hard when there's very little grass on some areas to do much sweeping because it kills the grass. Water controllers have been placed on pedestals to avoid further damage if we would happen to have another flood in some time in the very long future. And he is waiting for state permits to work on creek repairs. Play it forward markers were installed Monday at Burksdale and Kingswood of this week, and the other ones have been ordered and will be installed before summer gets here. Good progress is being made on the Scottsdale number 13 culvert. And subcommittee reports, the junior golf program is being started with Daryl Muldoon heading up the program. They hope to have a big turnout for young people between the age of 6 and 18. Marketing in full swing with the ideas of promotion of golf to non-members. And Greens and Course Committee is working on location to bunkers at Scottsdale. The golf leader meeting preceded the golf advisory meeting with about 55 group leaders present. They went over the expectations for the new golf season as well as answered any questions they may have. And from about 4 to 6 that evening, there were about 300 people attending a very successful golf Expo, and we thank all those who were involved in the event.
Thank you. Old business, policy 1.07. I'll have our Chief Operating Officer, Tom Judson, take the floor, please.
If you go to page 42 of your packet, this will be the second and final reading of this policy, proposed policy change. Policy 1.07 revises the timing of when the agenda for the board meetings and the minutes are distributed to the public. Questions or comments?
We have a motion to authorize and approve the second reading.
So moved.
Do we have a second? Discussion?
I don't know that it's appropriate, but for me to do this, but I would like to enter into the minutes of this meeting a concern that was expressed by one of our community members. And that person is Chris Urban. Chris called me last Saturday. We spoke for about an hour. I invited him to call me again on Sunday to continue our discussion, and he did not call. But on Saturday, while we were talking, he had a serious concern that the timing for the approval of minutes is such that it does not give members of the community a chance to review the minutes that would be approved at the coming board meeting, prior to the board meeting. And he was concerned that his perspectives might not be recorded as they were intended, and not therefore being given due consideration. I told him at that time that one of the ways that he could guarantee that his concerns were properly reflected in the minutes is to submit them in writing to the board, and then they would be passed on to or included in the minutes. He has done that. I think it would be appropriate for us to simply give a reading of what he submitted to me. I think that could be done very expeditiously, and so I'm going to do that. He says, it is my belief that a regular POA board meeting minutes should reflect an actual account of what transpired at the scheduled and open POA meeting. Basically, the minutes are a snapshot to read that can also be conveniently utilized by those who, for whatever reason, are unable to attend the meeting, but still have another opportunity to gain a good understanding of the meeting after reading the applicable minutes. This POA meeting should reflect an account of what actually transpired through the participation of three parties: the board, the staff, and the property owners and guests, who all have the privilege to make comments and suggestions, all of POA record. It is my belief that all active meeting participants from all three parties should be afforded the ability and the courtesy to review the draft minutes posted to the POA website and provide feedback if necessary before only one party, the POA board, finally approves them, like that of an autocratic ruler would exercise through power. Also to note, when the board makes policy changes, it normally has two readings of the proposed policy. If the board passes proposed policy 1.07 in a scenario when the board performs the first reading in January and the second reading in February, the minutes of record for the January meeting will not be available or posted on the POA website until after the February meeting, which means both readings of a proposed policy can be approved before the members actually get an opportunity to at least read the January meeting minutes. I also found proposal 1.07 in conflict with policy 1.01 member access to POA information, since the members will be provided information to read after the fact when it is already too late. Purpose: to ensure that the spirit of POA law, Roman numeral 4.3.f, is followed, thereby ensuring that members shall be advised of the performance of its board and management and of the decisions that are reached and policies adopted in behalf of the association and its members. This policy will ensure that POA members have appropriate access to information and proceedings of their association consistent with the right and need to know, while still enabling the association to conduct its business and operations to the best advantage of its members. In closing, if my understanding of proposed policy 1.07 is correct, I personally find this policy as completely unacceptable, and I would also find such practice of purposely withholding pertinent information from the membership as an abuse of board power. I hope the board as a whole makes the right decision on proposed policy 1.07 this evening. Sincerely, Chris Urban, POA member, 8 Grimsley Drive, Bella Vista, Arkansas, 72715.
I wanted to comment on the comments. The minutes for the February Rules and Regulations Committee meeting are available on the website, and in those minutes, you will see that policy 1.07 is covered extensively. Also available on the website is the agenda for February work session and the February board meeting, both of which reference policy 1.07. Additionally, the agenda for the March board work session and the March board meeting both reference policy 1.07. Both are available on the website. Additionally, there is a section titled Governing Documents under Board Review, and this document is available in that section. And finally, including tonight's meeting, there were 6 open meetings that the public could have attended and seen or heard about policy 1.07. So with regard to transparency, I think the board is doing a pretty good job.
If I could also add one thing, that is that the policy changes, bylaws changes, are always discussed prior to the board meeting by the Rules and Regulations Committee. That committee's meetings are open to the public and also then afford the community the opportunity to voice their opinions with regard to proposed policy and bylaw changes.
Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the second final reading as proposed signify by saying aye or raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
If you move on to page 45 of your packet, you'll see that we are considering the second and final reading of bylaw Roman numeral 7, section 6. Revision states the interchangeable nature of the titles General Manager and Chief Operating Officer.
This will be the second final reading. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Update on Medfield and Branchwood construction projects by Mike Taggart, our Director of MAC and Water.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, we've heard of some of the projects that were going on tonight briefly, and I'll get into that a little in depth and as we go through it. But this is the Bella Vista project update for member services, the fitness area, pro shop, and Deli, which is all out at the Metfield area, and then the Branchwood Trail, which is on the west side. Okay, this is the membership services area. This area believe it or not, used to be a kitchen, and it's been renovated, and now when you come into the lobby through the front door, you'll come into this area, which is the front of the lobby, and we have a waiting area. The restrooms over here to the right of that area. It's a really nice setup. It really meets the members' needs to get in there, get out, do business. So it's worked out real well, and we've had a lot of compliments on that. This is more of the area just looking in the back. These are the offices. One's Connie's office over here, and the other one there's Carmen. She's in that office, and they're right just to the back side of the front area or lobby. This right here, believe it or not, we had to put these rails up because we had people coming in because membership service interest is right over here, and instead of walking up the ramp and coming back to it, we had people crossing here. So for safety reasons and all that, we install these rails, and they are being very effective. This is the new fitness area. This area really turned out nice. We got both sides open air to the pond side, which everybody wanted. If some of you remembered, used to be a outdoor bar area that had a fence up there. That's all been tore down. So it's really nice when you're doing your exercise and everything, you can see outside. Again, this is in the area to the backside of, as you come into the fitness area, the backside. And again, all this equipment was moved from over there on the backside where the card players used to be. We made that a fitness area, and that now has been vacated, and everything is now in this area. Again, this is the area looking towards the parking lot. Again, open area. We came back. We used to have that old kind of Samsonite kind of tile flooring. We came back with Tom. Clem asked that we take another look at it. We looked at looking at a new floor type, similar actually to the one that's at Reardon. And Tom got with Tom, looked at the budget, and made a decision to put this exercise type flooring in there. And it was a very good decision because it really enhances the room and meets the purpose, most of all. And then again, this is just another area of that particular area of the fitness room or fitness area. Okay, also in that area, if y'all remember, these were the old chandeliers hanging down and just kind of wasn't really conducive to the fitness look. So we actually went back in there and removed those, and when we did that, it did affect the lighting in that area. So again, I got with Tom and our guys and looked at it and said, you know, what can we do? So we went ahead and took after we had taken down the chandeliers and looked what the lighting looked like, we came back, talked to a lighting company. They came in, and you can see now we've installed these dual track lighting, and that has also really lit up that area, and we've had good comments on that as well. Then we move over to the Pro Shop and Deli area. This is the new look on the Pro Shop side. It really looks good. It's open. If you remember, we had that kind of rubber flooring over there. It really wasn't holding up real well. It caused a lot of kind of dust was coming off of it and getting on the retail stuff, the shoes and all that. So Andy approached us and asked if we could do something else, and so we came back in and redid the flooring in that area. Again, another good upgrade and really made it a lot more functional in that area. And we have the Deli area, and this is new, and we've all talked about that. Again, with the communications department and everything, we went in there, we revamped the whole area. It's got a whole new look. It's got a little, excuse me, hit the wrong button, didn't I? Sorry about that. That was quick. There we go. At this point, I'm trying. So we came in, communications came in and looked at that, and we come up with these deli signs, which enhance the area as well. So the customers come in and look and order off the Sorry, I'm lacking a word there. Right off the menu on the wall, on the ceiling, actually. Anyway, it turned out really good. And this is the Branchwood Trail. And by the way, that project is completed. So we're glad to have that done, and we're moving on to the next project. The Branchwood Trail, again, a lot of stuff going on out there. We've had some issues with the weather, has hampered some of the progress, and we've had to extend some of the deadlines, and I'll get to that at the end of the presentation. But they are in there. They're putting down the base and putting down the sidewalks or the walks, the trail itself. We had areas that we had to address with some pavers to hold the earth back from the trail itself. So that's what you see here. And then this is just progress going on. The guys just got done pouring this, cut the joints, pulled the forms, and moved them up to the next part. And then down here you can also see in some of the steeper areas where they're starting to put in the wood rails. A combination of that and the walls, again, to hold back some of the soil. But it's really looking good, and boy, when it gets done and the growth comes in there, then it's going to look really nice. And again, like was mentioned earlier, we're working with the Recreational Committee to look at that and see what else we can do in those areas as we approach Phase 2 and on. Okay, and this is the bridge. It's all in. I was there the other day. They had it all, and they were, again, forming these areas up. They will pour the deck with concrete as well. And this is just, again, another nice little area. This was an area that we had to address with a bridge because we have such a large amount of water that comes through that particular area right there. So the bridge was something that was needed and needed to be part of the trail system there. Okay, so initially when the project started, we had a substantial completion date of March 28th. Like I mentioned, because of the weather and the things that's been going on, the contractor came to us and asked us for an extension, and we've granted that. So the new project substantial completion will be April the 11th. And then the final completion initially was April the 28th. And because of, again, the weather and the extensions that we have approved, the new project completion date will be May 13th of this year. And that's all I have, unless I have any questions.
Does substantial mean people can walk on it yet, or is it you need to wait until final date?
We need to wait till final date.
I just want everybody breath.
If you turn to page 47 of your packet, you'll see policy, this would be the first reading for proposed policy 1.04 regarding advisory committees. This would make improvements to this policy to make sure it is in compliance with the rest of the governing documents.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the first reading of this change.
Can I ask a question first? Joint Advisory Committee shall be comprised of up to 7 members?
That's a change. That's what it was.
Original.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was original. Now it's being changed to the number.
I got you.
Okay.
Necessary.
I move we accept the changes to this policy.
Had a motion to accept the changes to policy 1.04, Joint Advisory Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
On page number 52, concerning committee operations, point number 2 reads, annually, the chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary for each committee shall be chosen by the committee at at their first scheduled meeting in July and will serve in that capacity for a 12-month term. In previous discussion that we've had about the timing for the election of chairperson and vice chairperson, we had said that when the committee was being formed and taking office in January, that the last meeting of the year in December would be the meeting at which the new chairperson and vice chairperson would be, and secretary, I guess, would be selected, thus enabling the committee to, quote, hit the ground running, close quote, at their January 1st meeting, so there was no further delay. Consequently, when we have changed it, and the reason for the change for the audience is so that we would have all of the committee transitions synced together with the board changes, so that the board would be changing as a result of the May elections. You know, that whole process would be together. It would seem to me that in order to be consistent with our previous discussion, that the chairperson and the vice chairperson should be elected at the, if they are taking office in July, they should be elected in June, so that similarly, they hit the ground running at their first July meeting.
The only challenge to that is that the board chair is actually involved in that, and he doesn't take office until
He or she.
he or she doesn't take office until all of the rest of the board members elect them in June. So you're going to have a board chair who's not elected yet.
They would be elected. Yeah. Because it's,
Not till June.
that's June 1st, isn't it? Doesn't it take effect June 1st?
No, we have a special meeting that's supposed to be held as soon as possible after the election,
Right.
but it's not a specific date, is it?
No, what, the new board members are elected the third week of May.
Right.
Their term takes effect June 1st. So the outgoing board members, their term ends May 31st at midnight. New board members begin June 1st.
So that's why this is a little bit different than the other one, because you're gonna have a board that's gonna meet sometime early June to elect its leadership, and then that leadership in turn is working with the committees to be formed, which is different than the timing we had before.
Yeah, I understand. It simply brings to mind whether or not we thought that there was sufficient reason to elect the JAC chairperson and vice chairperson at the end of the term of the current committee, so that, given the fact that it's likely that the vice chairperson and chairperson would be an experienced member of that committee, I just don't want to be, if, having considered that, we could say, well, it's really not as important as we once thought it was. Because I thought, as I said, that the idea was that we were going to have these people in place so that they could, at their first meeting, make assignments, and it didn't have to wait until the next meeting for them to make assignments, that they would be active immediately and not a month delayed.
All right. Any other comments about that from the rest of the board members?
I agree with that thinking, Pat. The second thing I wanted to clarify is that since this is a change for most board members would be carried over, they would stay on until June of next year instead of December of this year. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so the chair, vice chair, and secretary would continue until that time also.
Provided they were willing to.
At one point, we had contemplated adding a provision in here that would state that it would kick in for next year, but we just felt that this was a better way of writing it and just it would be effectively a formality for the board to just approve those people to continue on for the additional year.
The first committee is the golf committee that meets the second Wednesday of the month. The rest of them meet after that time. And so if you did do, as Pat suggested, you would have 2 weeks or more to pull it together.
The Recreation Committee meets on the second Monday.
Second Monday?
Right.
So it wouldn't be pushing.
Yeah, well, be pushing it, and remember, the new board chair, along with the general manager, are making the new appointments. So, I mean, literally, we're going to have a quick schedule there going forward.
I'm comfortable leaving the proposal the way it is with the first scheduled meeting in July. I mean, it doesn't mean, just because you don't have a chairperson and a vice chairperson, doesn't mean that the committee can't get together and talk about potential projects and do some effective brainstorming, and just be, patient in regard to the election of a chairperson and a vice chairman for one more month. I just think it would be, you're going to wind up with a situation, in my opinion, where the chairman of the board and the chief operating officer are in a scramble. They've got 7 days to find the right committee members, make phone calls, verify that they're available, that they're interested. Do they pass muster with the outgoing chairman of the committee, and all that sort of thing. And I would encourage us to be a little bit more patient in the appointment of those chairperson and vice chairman in that first meeting.
Any other thoughts? Call for the question. Those in favor of the first reading change policy 1.04, please signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries with one abstention.
On page 55 of your packet, this will be the final reading of the declaration changes, which will be incorporated into the ballot for the upcoming election. Because of the timing of the election, we need the final approval today. And review the proposed changes to the declaration, which would be incorporated into the upcoming election ballot.
Entertain a motion.
So move.
Second. Discussion. Those in favor of the motion and second, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
On page 58 of your packet, proposed policy 1.03.6. This was the first reading. This proposal has to do with the creation of a charitable giving committee. Any questions?
A motion to accept the first reading, creation of charitable giving committee under policy 1.03.6.
Move to accept the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Page 60 of your packet, this would be the first reading of proposed policy 1.03.7, which is proposes the creation of a resource and advisory committee, which would put to use the talents of former chairpersons and vice chairpersons into an advisory committee.
I have a motion to accept first reading of policy 1.03.7.
So move.
I have a second.
I'll second it, but I have a comment.
Okay. Open for discussion.
Under Section 2, Organization and Appointment, item number 1, the committee is established to consist of at least 3 members appointed by the chairperson each June. My concern is, quite honestly, what do we do if a former chairman of the board or vice chairman of the board simply says, thanks, but no thanks, I'm going to go do something else. And I would not accept an appointment to this committee. I think it's at least feasible that we may not have 3 former chairman or vice chairman who want to serve. And at that point, I don't know how the committee could be effectively formulated. So I would suggest maybe a slight wording change. I'm thinking about this on the fly, but with at most 3 members appointed by the chairperson each June, something like that.
The reason why we went with at least 3 is in addition to the advisory role, they would be doing hearings for members that have acted in an appropriate manner, so that's why we wanted to go with 3, so we could get the odd vote, and if we were down to 2, it didn't seem as judicial.
That makes perfectly good sense to me. I'm just not quite sure what happens if you can't get 3 former board members to serve on this committee.
We could add a catch-all at the end, which would give the board authority to make adjustments to this policy as they so feel, and potentially add an additional member that is not a chairperson, that was not a chairperson or vice chairperson. Just add a catch-all that gives us, the board, an unconditional waiver on it.
Pat?
I look at this and I understand the need for a special committee to handle problems such as discipline. But it seems to me that the existence of a committee may, sort of in keeping with what Brad said, may best be served by an ad hoc committee. That rather than having a committee that we try to formulate every year, the frequency with which such a committee is called upon to do something, to act, is not so often that we couldn't simply handle it by making ad hoc appointments. And that also would give us the capability of expanding the base of persons who might have a particular expertise to address the issue at hand.
The only challenge I have with that is, well, first of all, under section 2, the committee, number 3, the meetings will be held on an as-needed basis. I think the issue that I have with an ad hoc, when it comes to disciplinary issues, I think it needs to be a formalized committee and not an off-the-cuff committee.
In situations that I have been in before, disciplinary committees consisted of senior staff, not boards, where if there was a disciplinary issue within a particular department, senior staff of that department that understood the behaviors, if you would, of the employee who was being considered for disciplinary action, would be called together to handle that.
I hear what you're saying, Pat, but I think what we're talking about here is a member discipline situation, not a employee discipline situation. And if it's a member, I'm not quite sure I want a employee of the membership disciplining.
Disregard my membership.
Yeah.
Are we talking about also people that would be, who would be so delinquent on their assessments, or just those who violated the rules and regulations of the
Yeah, we reference policy 1.03, which is typically disciplinary, as in the person acted in a highly inappropriate manner of some sort.
They would be losing membership privileges and things like that. It would not be a law issue.
Correct. If someone came in and got intoxicated and acted inappropriately at one of the outlets, then we could ban them from coming back.
Do we need a motion or amendment to this motion to add the caveat about the catch-all at the end, or can we?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is under Roman numeral 2, that section, we'll add a 7th item, and we'll add the catch-all there, which will give the board chairperson the authority to waive selected rules covered under this policy.
Then I make a motion that we amend the motion to include the catch-all, section 7.
And I'll second that amended motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the amended proposal signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes.
On page 62 of your packet, this will be the first reading of proposed changes to bylaw Article Roman numeral 2, Section 1C, and bylaw Article Roman numeral 7, Section 1B, adjustments to ensure our bylaws are in compliance with state law.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Any discussion? All those go ahead.
I was just going to say, maybe just for the benefit of the audience, maybe Tom, you could just give us a 30-second summary of what's going on here. I mean, I think most people, if they just hear that our bylaws aren't in accordance with state law, might get a little concerned. And really, we're just, as far as I understand it, we're just clarifying the key issue here is the appointment of a vice president.
Absolutely. In no way was the POA acting in an egregious manner. We just have been, with the services of our attorney, we've been going through some of the bylaws to ensure everything is in order and just cleaning things up. So this was not brought up as a result of a discovery of an omission. It was a proactive approach to ensure that our governing documents are appropriate.
Thank you.
Call for the question. All those in favor of this proposed first reading change? All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Appointment of corporate officers.
On page 64 of your packet, you will see a memo from Doug McCash, our attorney, regarding the appointment of corporate officers, and you'll see towards the bottom is the recommendation that he has provided.
Like a motion to appoint Tom Judson as president, to appoint Dwayne Mitchell as vice president
Treasurer.
and treasurer.
That's probably been.
Let's do them one at a time, I think.
Would like a motion to approve or name Tom Judson as our president.
I move that we elect Tom Judson as our president.
Have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Unanimous. Entertain a motion to appoint Dwayne Mitchell as vice president and treasurer.
Yeah, you can do that. Same.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor signify by raising your hand. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Need a motion to appoint Genevieve Henderson as our corporate secretary.
So moved.
Need a second? Any discussion?
Just a clarification too, on all these appointments, I presume they are for a one-year period?
That is correct.
Yes.
Okay, just to clarify, maybe we'll make all the motions read that all these appointments are for a one-year period.
All of them are ex officio, non-voting board members.
Is that 1 year from this date, or are we going to annualize these?
They will be annualized at the first board meeting after the board elections in May. You'll reappoint the officers, and at that time, it'll be an annual appointment from then on.
All of those in favor of Ms. Henderson's appointment, raise their hand. All those opposed, carries unanimously.
On page 67 of your packet, you'll see that.
Treasurer?
Did it.
Oh, we did treasurer?
Yeah, we did.
We did it.
Did treasurer.
You made him vice president.
Vice President.
Sorry.
That's right. On page 67 of your packet, you'll see that there are two bid waiver request forms. Now, according to POA policy 8.10 and 8.11, we're required to get 3 bids for all services that exceed $25,000. And by and large, we do this on a consistent basis, but every once in a while, we run into a challenge where it's basically impossible to get 3 bids, or in the case of the first request, this is an exclusive vendor. They're the only ones that sell this specific type of grass. So we're seeking a waiver, which is required by our audit firm for this initial one.
Motion to accept the waiver on the 3 bid policy for the Scottsdale Greens project.
So moved.
And I have a second. Any discussion? Correct. Call for the question. All those in favor of the waiver? All those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Page 68, this is a twofold request. First of all is a request of the board to authorize management to contract with a architectural firm to move forward with developing plans of the yacht club. And second of all, to give management a waiver on the 3 bid policy. Anytime you're working with architecture firms, it's not like buying a product or a car. It's very hard to compare one from the other. We did interview and consult with 3 firms. One of the firms backed out immediately. They felt that this job was a little bit too small, and actually that firm, one of the principals is a property owner in Bella Vista. But we did receive 2 bids, and we felt that the one that we're recommending is highly qualified. All the firms were highly qualified. We felt that this was the best firm to go with.
I have a motion to accept proposal for an architect to be hired to work on the yacht club project, and at the same time, a waiver for that architect on the 3 bid policy.
And I don't think I mentioned that it's for $40,000. I'm not sure if I did or did not include that.
For some $40,000.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion. All those in favor, raise the right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Announcements. Prior to announcements, anybody have anything else for the board this evening? The Chief Operating Officer Board meeting next meeting will be held Thursday, April 7th, 2:30 in the Country Club Board Meeting Room. This is a closed discussion meeting. Board of Directors work session will be Thursday, April 14th, 2016, 8 a.m. here in the boardroom. And the next regular Board of Directors meeting will be Thursday, April 21st, 6:30 p.m. in the Country Club meeting boardroom. We are adjourned.
This has been the monthly meeting of the POA Board of Directors from the Bella Vista Country Club. This has been a production of Bella Vista Community Television.